Today, there's too much secrecy and too few beautiful renderings surrounding the new US Boeing F-47 fighter, which is somewhat unusual for American programs. But behind the silence lies what could be the most radical reform of the Air Force since the advent of stealth. This isn't just about replacing the aging F-22 Raptor fleet, but also about creating a new model of air warfare in which drones become full-fledged participants in combat for the first time. It's precisely these combined forces of manned aircraft and swarms of hundreds of drones that will disrupt enemy air defenses' search for and neutralize mobile targets and maintain information superiority. The F-47 will be the center of such forces, integrating reconnaissance, electronic warfare, targeting, and strikes into a single system where decisions will be made in a split second. We're not dealing with a conventional modernization, but with a transition to distributed aviation, where the cost of one Van der Waffel platform is offset by a mass of cheap, but technologically advanced wingmen. The only question is who will be the first to learn to manage their air ecosystems better, the United States or its adversaries. If in the 20th century the winner in air superiority was the one who shot down more aircraft and lost fewer, then today everything comes down to the speed of target detection and recognition, decision-making, and striking faster than the enemy has time to hide, change position, or create a false picture. You can have excellent missiles, but be late with target acquisition. You can have a powerful radar, but lose contact at the most crucial moment. You can even get your plane to the right altitude and speed only to lose to the enemy because they left a bunch of decoys and escaped radar coverage while you were making your decision. This is where the main shift of recent years comes in. The emphasis is now shifting from an ultra-expensive platform to a sustainable architecture. When the environment is saturated with radars of various ranges, passive detection systems, mobile anti-aircraft missile systems, and a host of cheap weapons, the one who survives is not the one who is less visible and whose stealth is more expensive, but the one who can afford mistakes and the loss of elements without losing the entire purpose of the operation. That's why we hear increasingly more about distribution and family of systems in presentations of the next-generation air-dominant 6th-generation fighter development program. Sensors are coming to the forefront, functionality is being split across multiple carriers, and critical communication channels are being duplicated so that the system isn't blinded by a single successful enemy strike. Simply put, in a future war, an aircraft is no longer an army unto itself, but rather a hub capable of quickly linking reconnaissance, electronic warfare, and lethal force into lightning-fast actions, especially in critical situations. Right now, America's adversaries are learning to operate in short bursts. Turn on radar for a few seconds, fire and disappear into the shadows, deploy a mobile missile launcher, fire a salvo and retreat, or force the United States to waste expensive missiles by replacing real targets with cheap simulators. In such a game, the one with the broadest vision and the fastest reaction time will win. Therefore, the U.S. Air Force is emphasizing more than ever the importance of lightning-fast processing of massive amounts of data and the automation of routine tasks so that some decisions are ultimately made by the machine itself, while the pilot remains the one setting the rules and responsible for the use of force without being bogged down in micromanaging every second. This is where unmanned wingmen come to the rescue, transforming from an adjunct into a fully fledged combatant. They act as remote sensors, relays, jammers, decoys, and carry additional weapons. But if UAVs are the muscles and arms of the new aviation, someone must become its brain and nervous system. They will be the Boeing F-47 fighter. Its name, of course, was not chosen by chance. First, it's a reference to the World War II-era P-47 Thunderbolt piston engine fighter, which remained in service long enough for its designation to be changed to F-47 shortly after the decision was made to drop the P prefix for pursuit. Secondly, 47 is a reference to the year the independent United States Air Force was founded, 1947, which was originally a branch of the U.S. Army. And finally, third, the F-47 is a reference to the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump. The Boeing F-47 is a key element of the broader NGAD program, which is developing a worthy replacement for the F-22 Raptor, a family of systems integrated under the fuselage of the latest long-range stealth fighter, formerly known as the Penetrating Counter-Air PCA. Although many of the design details of the new fighter remain classified, one rendering released in the spring of 2025 drew the attention of many specialists to the forward horizontal stabilizers. This was a highly unexpected decision for an aircraft optimized for stealth, range, payload, and speed rather than maneuverability. Because the F-47 is tailless and features a stealthy diamond-shaped fuselage, it's difficult to stabilize. This is especially true given that it's a tactical jet designed to operate across a wide range of performance envelopes. However, designers can overcome this problem by making some sacrifices. The first sacrifice would be the fighter's maneuverability. Some of the problems could have been solved by adding thrust vector control, but this would have immediately increased the fighter's weight and price, while simultaneously further complicating its design. Given the presence of forward horizontal stabilizers, it appears that maneuverability remained a primary design criterion for Boeing when designing the F-47. If true, this would explain many other interesting aspects of the fighter's design. After all, canards not only improve maneuverability, but also give the fighter additional stability at high angles of attack, especially for aircraft with delta wings. The main drawback of this element is that it's always created problems in achieving a high degree of invisibility on enemy radars, which is extremely important for the survival of any tactical aircraft. For the same reason, many experts strongly criticize the Chinese Chengdu J-20, which had obvious canards, but still continued to position itself as a stealth fighter. Against this backdrop, it's especially ironic that a number of American concepts and programs such as Joint Advanced Strike Technology, JST, or Advanced Short Takeoff Vertical Landing, a STOVE, which led to the creation of the F-35 stealth fighter, also featured forward horizontal stabilizers. Heck, even INAD's predecessor, the F-22 Raptor, the culmination of the Advanced Tactical Fighter ATF program, also had canards. That is, everyone understood that they were worsening stealth, but they didn't veto this design feature of the aircraft. This means it could very well be that what we saw in the renderings is simply an attempt to confuse potential adversaries and us too, or it could be one of the modular elements of the NGAD fighter, which will be presented in several versions at once. For the Pacific and European theaters of military operations, and therefore will have different design features for specific tasks. This concept, dubbed Open Mission Systems, envisions an open environment that allows for the integration of entire modules, third-party sensors, and weapons without rewriting the entire system. Essentially, the fighter becomes a kind of smartphone with wings, and its capabilities are determined not only by what was installed at the factory, but also by the applications and modules loaded onto it today. In part, this modularity can even be called forced since the pace of development of artificial intelligence and electronic warfare systems today outpaces any technology development cycles we're accustomed to, even military ones. The fighter's key element will be its next-generation adaptive propulsion system developed under the Next Generation Adaptive Propulsion NGAP program by teams from General Electric and Pratt & Whitney, whose prototypes are designated XA-102 and XA-103 respectively. Such an engine will allow the fighter to adapt its operating mode to the mission at hand, whether it's fuel-efficient cruising over vast distances or a sharp acceleration at speeds exceeding Mach 2 to penetrate enemy air defenses. Furthermore, we shouldn't rule out the possibility of integrating a hybrid engine powertrain where electric drive modules provide low-noise operation during takeoff and landing. After all, we've already seen successful implementations of such concepts in the American plane family. At the same time, the combat radius of the aircraft will, according to Air Force Chief of Staff General David W. Alvin, be more than 1,000 nautical miles. When it comes to stealth aircraft, the issue of materials is extremely sensitive. However, U.S. Air Force representatives did mention that the F-47 utilized metamaterials, which controlled reflectivity as well as hybrid thermal adaptive layers. This will allow for better temperature control at all stages of flight, especially in areas where every degree is precious under the watchful eye of enemy sensors and radars. Another breakthrough will be the F-47's information system, which combines passive antennas, distributed radars, optical electronic sensors, and communication channels with satellites and friendly vehicles into a single data fusion system. The pilot no longer has to read the instruments. Instead, he receives a ready-made verified picture where targets are ranked by threat level and courses of action are suggested by advanced onboard AI. At its core, the new fighter will be a flying data center, one of whose amazing capabilities is the ability to think and adapt faster than humans. However, even the most advanced fighter concepts require weapons. The U.S. Air Force currently has the AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile JATM, an air-to-air missile with a maximum speed of Mach 5 and a maximum range of at least 120 miles as the primary long-range missile for the F-47. The media describes it as nothing less than a promising replacement or addition to the A-120 AMRAAM. But the F-47 doesn't have to carry the entire arsenal. NGAD's philosophy emphasizes off-board weapons. So some missiles and bombs are shifted directly to the iron shoulders of Collaborative Combat Aircraft (CCA), or as they're commonly called, loyal wingman drones. The fighter in turn will only choose the right moment to launch. This approach will not only preserve stealth, but also significantly expand the ammunition loadout through additional carriers. Compatibility with high-speed weapons such as hypersonic missiles, which are currently under active development, and directed energy systems is also being considered in the future. While a combat laser in the nose of a fighter may seem like sci-fi to you now, the NGAD program's fighter architecture is designed so that the addition of such modules will not require a generational change in the aircraft itself, and the most daring ideas of U.S. military engineers can be realized. Speaking of CCA, it refers to a whole family of drones, not just one model. Within the program, they're considered in at least 3 roles: sensor platform, strike carrier, jammer/bait generator. Autonomy levels vary. In basic mode, the CCA executes a pre-programmed route and transmits data. In advanced mode, the AI independently selects an attack position, maintains distance, evades air defenses, and only requests the fighter pilot's approval to deploy its weapons. A typical combat episode involving an F-47 and CCA might look like this. A Group 1 fighter and 6 CCAs approaches the enemy's anti-access and area denial A2 zone. 2 drones fly in front, acting as eyes with their passive sensors activated. The third carries an electronic warfare suite, creating false indicators of enemy radars. The fourth is a missile platform ready to launch based on external target designation. Meanwhile, the F-47 itself remains at a distance, gathering information and making decisions. If the air defenses do respond, it's time for the decoy drones to use their power, luring the enemy into revealing themselves. Once the enemy's radar is activated, the coordinates are instantly transmitted to the attack CCA, which launches a missile at them, even without its own powerful radar. Moreover, the F-47 may not even illuminate the target at this point, maintaining stealth. This approach fundamentally changes the economics of war. The loss of a few drones becomes merely acceptable losses, unlike the potential destruction of a manned aircraft. Therefore, CCAs are used to handle first contact with enemy forces and carry the lion's share of what was previously carried on a fighter, including additional fuel tanks, reconnaissance assets, communications relays, and much more. However, the problem of trusting autonomy remains. Engineers will have to drink hundreds of thousands of liters of coffee to train algorithms to distinguish real targets from decoys, resist deception, and operate in the harshest combat conditions. This, incidentally, is the reason why even in this CCA concept with AI on board, humans still have the final say. It's just that now the pilot doesn't direct the battle, but rather oversees it. So far, the U.S. Air Force has designated 2 prototypes: the YFQ-42A from General Atomics and the YFQ-44 from Anduril Industries, is named in a March 2025 press release. First 2 prototypes of collaborative combat aircraft in a new generation of uncrewed fighter aircraft. In terms of scale, the Air Force currently intends to have a fleet of 185 F-47 fighters and 500 CCA, with the prospect of expanding these ambitious figures to an even more ambitious 300 and 1,000 units respectively. Or rather when the U.S. Air Force will be able to bring this air ecosystem to maturity, the F-47 will become not just a new fighter, but a command center that'll buy the U.S. the most valuable thing in future warfare time. Then time for the first salvo to open up the air defenses to maintain the initiative in the first hours of the conflict when there's no turning back. Well, now it's your turn to tell us how you envision an air battle between the F-47 and its potential adversaries, and what aspects this ambitious fighter should focus on. Share your opinion in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more content like today's. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.